Hey, what's up everybody? It's Jason. I am back again with another video and I'm doing a contest entry last minute. I hope we get it in under the wire for BC time anyway. This is a contest entry for Vinyl Martini, aka Jack, over on the West Coast. He has been in the VC, I guess, for 3 years, so this is his contest celebrating 3 years, and there's no prize for this contest, which is perfect. Fine by me, and I think he's actually going to donate to local charity or food bank, which is also a great idea this time of year or any time of year. So the tag, the contest, if you will, is all about compilations. I would have showed this compilation actually, but it's a movie soundtrack, so I'm kind of staying away from movie soundtracks for this one. I'm going to show 20 records in total. I'm going to show 10 various artist compilations, 10 of my favorites. You'll notice that a majority of them are from the 1980s, which is still the best decade of music, I think. Lots of a mix of punk, experimental, metal, rock, etc., and some synth as well. And then I'll show 10 compilations of single artist releases, just because what the hell. Got a lot of records to show. But right now I'm rocking from Victoria, BC, in honor of Jack on the West Coast. Some classic 80s punk here from Dayglow Abortions and their Fetus album, which was super famous in the 80s. Came out in 86. It was like their second album, but it really borrows a lot of songs from the first, so this could have almost fit in the compilation single artist category. Actually, I'm thinking about doing another video after this. I don't know if this has been a tag already or not, but I'm thinking about doing a video of albums that almost function like a compilation. They're that good, or they just have so many songs they're like a comp. That would have been one of them. But let's get into my top 10. These aren't ranked. Top 10-ish compilations, favorites in my collection. And I noticed Brian has done an entry. Obviously, I got to keep up with Brian. He has so many entries this month of tags and contests. I don't know where to begin. I guess I'm beginning here. And I think he kicked off his entry with an experimental noise album out of Michigan. So hats off to Brian for that. I'm gonna also show a noise / experimental compilation to kick things off then too, just to getting some inspo from Brian at Embryonic Robot. This is 1987, a Canadian comp out of Toronto, and maybe Brian or others out there know about this music series, label, festival of sorts. It was in the 90s. I was not anywhere near Toronto in the 90s. I was really in Montreal during that time. But yeah, it's called Freedom in a Vacuum. Freedom in a Vacuum, right there. Compilation. This is the international compilation. But a lot of times I gather that many of the artists were Canadian or local, maybe. It's run by Robert Alver. Not sure if he's still doing stuff. This label, I'm imagining, is pretty defunct by now. But it was a whole noise series, experimental music series. A lot of it happening at the Music Gallery in Toronto, if that venue rings a bell for anybody, starting in 1991. This comp comes out in 87, though, and found it locally really cheap, like $6. Total random find, but definitely had to pick it up. Not only because I like noise and experimental music, but it has Nurse with Wound on this thing too. So I don't recognize any of the other artists actually, but some of them are still putting out sounds and recordings from what I looked up on Discogs. Nurse with Wound, like I said, was the only one I really recognized from that record. And I don't see it much in the VC. But some people have commented that they have a copy or they've seen a copy kicking around before. So maybe only in Canada. Now, stateside, I'm going to go with one of my favorite compilations. That one's pretty cool. That's definitely for the cool factor, that Freedom in a Vacuum, but I don't play that on a regular, maybe like once or twice a year. This one I like to play once or twice a year too, but man, I love all these bands. Play these bands more often than that. This is the God's Favorite Dog compilation. Sorry about all the glare here with the plastic wrap. 1980s compilation from Touch and Go Records. One of my favorite labels from the 80s for that post-punk sort of indie, I guess, but a lot of post-rock, noise rock, pre-grunge era. I'm talking about the bands that are on this comp here. Butthole Surfers from Texas, Killdozer from Wisconsin, I think. Scratch Acid, also from Texas. Happy Flowers, who are amazing. Big Black from Chicago. And of course, Hose. Hose is included on this. That is a New York City project band that includes on guitar one Rick Rubin. So yeah, this is a really killer comp. If you see it, pick it up. I managed to score one for $10 many years ago, a couple decades ago maybe now. This came out in '86. There's a green text version as well, apparently. I think that's the European pressing. But yeah, Touch and Go Records, one of my fave labels from the '80s. They're out of Chicago. I think they started in Michigan as a zine, and then they moved around a little bit. And they were still going for a while in the 2000s anyway. But this early '80s stuff, this is the best stuff on that label for sure. Another compilation, a punk compilation here, and this one's kind of cheating a little bit because I started off my video saying I'm not going to show any movie soundtracks. This is actually a soundtrack, but it's a soundtrack to a documentary, so I don't know. Anyway, it had to go in here because this is an essential comp from my youth. I never had God's Favorite Dog until the last 10 or 20 years, but I used to have this as a kid growing up, and searched around for it again for many years until I finally scored a copy. I think only in the last couple of years I scored a copy. Came out in '83, UK DK, all about the early '80s hardcore UK punk scene. This is kind of like post Pistols and Buzzcocks, etc. This is the harder stuff like Exploited, Chaos UK. Vibrators on here, also the Addicts are on here, Angelic Upstarts. The Damned is on here, actually, so there you go. That's a classic punk band. Yeah, just a really sick compilation. And it's on Fringe Product out of Toronto, which I was a huge fan growing up. They're kind of a lifeline for punk, hardcore, crossover, and even thrash metal releases, whether it be like DRI or Dayglow, like I showed earlier. Fringe Product had the goods, and this is a really cool compilation, UKDK. I really want to get a VHS copy of that. I think I had a VHS copy of that when I was a kid too. Another one from my early youth, one of the original 10, 15 punk records that I had as a kid, going into junior high school. This is not my OG copy, but it is an OG copy that I tracked down later on. But I always remember having this in my collection. This is called Something to Believe In. Big hardcore punk comp from the '80s for me. It's from an organization from the States, from LA, BYO, Better Youth Organization. And the comp came out in '84, but it has a lot of Canadian bands on here too. It's kind of like 50-50 split between US and Canada. You got all the different flags of provinces or states. DOA is on here, come from BC. SNFUs from Edmonton. Personality Crisis from Calgary. The Nils from Montreal. 7 Seconds, then from Reno. Kraut, New York. Big Boys from Austin. And you got Youth is on here from Toronto as well. They just recently had a reissue of their '80s album. And Youth Brigade was kind of, I think the main guy for Youth Brigade was behind this project or this label out of LA. Rigor Mortis. I mean, it's chock full. So there's 16 tracks in total. I think each band gets one track. Yeah, and it's super great. Scratches and Needles by Nils. That alone is worth the price of admission. But yeah, DOA and SNFU. It's pretty cool to have 7 Seconds on here as well. Classic 80s hardcore. Kind of that LA hardcore sound, even though there's a bunch of Canadian bands on here. Another comp. Would definitely be in my top 10 comps. Now a fun one, also kind of punk adjacent, and one of the only records that I have of this style of music, some ska. A little ska compilation here. I think Brian also showed a ska compilation, so I'm just trying to keep up here. This is a 1981 pressing from the UK of Dance Craze. This is all two-tone bands again, so this is like Bad Manners, Madness, The Selector, The Specials. And it's really, I think it's essential to have at least one ska record in your collection, I guess. And this is definitely mine. I would love to get the Specials album. their debut album. But I mean, this has like Concrete Jungle on here, Mirror in the Bathroom by the Beat. The Madness one is Razorblade Alley, and one it has One Step Beyond as well. It's also got Man at the CNA by Specials, Missing Words by Selector, Night Boat to Cairo by Madness, Nightclub by Specials. So it's really, you got about 3 tracks by each band. It's a lot of fun. It's compilation style pressing, so it's not super loud, but it's an OG anyway. Something I just found kind of randomly one time used and picked it up. Now this is not something I found randomly used, but super essential, killer comp. Moving into some metal territory now with Death. The label Death. This is called Complete Death. I love this label. It was like a sub-label of Metal Blade, focusing on a lot of thrash and crossover, and it's chock full of that stuff on the back here. Punk, crossover, thrash, DRI, Dr. No, Beyond Possessions from Calgary, Ugly Americans on here, Corrosion of Conformity, their early stuff when they were still thrash, my favorite stuff by COC, Mentors is on here, Dr. No is on here. Yeah, it's got 2 DRI songs on here actually, and it has stuff that says previously unreleased. Of course, it would come out later, but yeah, Depression, Australia's biggest hardcore band, is on this too. So yeah, Death Records / Metal Blade, distro by Restless, quality comp from '86. Happy to get that in the collection, and I play it fairly often, a lot of times in DJ sets, because some of these bands I don't really have much else other than what's on my comp. I mean, I have DRI and COC, but another metal comp. It's pretty sick. This is the Metal Attack Volume 1, and it's from Noise Records. Noise International Records out of Germany. Classic 80s metal label, huge label. And look at the bands that are on this thing. I mean, yeah, this is killer stuff. And actually, again, it's got sort of this idea of previously unreleased or slightly remixed versions. But yeah, you got Gravedigger on here, 2 unreleased tracks at the time, Running Wild, Sinner, Celtic Frost, with Dethroned Emperor and Morbid Tales on here that says unreleased. This is a first pressing of the vinyl because it has this promo for an upcoming 1985 Running Wild tour. So that's kind of fun. Actual tour dates from Running Wild and Sinner. German Metal Attack Tour in 1985. I totally bought it for the Celtic Frost alone, but I love Gravedigger, and Halloween, the early Halloween stuff is pretty good. Same thing with early Running Wild. Sinner's a little bit of a power metal, I think. Yeah, great comp. From the 80s, from 1985. All right, now let's get into something that is newer. This is probably the newest thing, or one of the newest things I'll show today. This is a Canadian metal compilation. Came out in 2019 called Trapped Under Ice. These are all new bands. New as in from the 2000s on, I think. And but they got an old style for sure. Definitely influenced by the 80s. Pretty cool comp. I saw a fair amount of these bands live over the years in Ottawa. And there are 2 Ottawa bands on here. Barrow White, one of my faves on this comp, and Occult Burial, my second fave on this comp as well. The 2 are my favorite on this one. But this has a lot of good sort of traditional heavy metal style stuff, from Traveler to Freeways to Metallion out of Montreal, Cauchemar from Montreal, and a bunch of others as well. Spell. So yeah, there's bands all the way from St. John's, Newfoundland on this, and Vancouver, I think, too. So pretty cool comp. This is on the Temple of Mystery label, which is run out of Montreal, I think. It's Canadian anyway. Good label. And cool comp. All right, 2 more to go in the various artists, if you guys are keeping up. This one is a new compilation I just got. This is like from 2023. Very interesting thing. This is called Black Lips Bar. This was an actual bar, cabaret bar in New York City. Very well known, I guess, for like drag and trans performers. Ahoni was one of the performers and is on here. Ahoni and the Johnsons, I think. But yeah, this is a really cool mix of darkened theme cabaret, if you will. Love this comp. It has stuff like Christian Death on here and Diamanda Gallus with Double Barrel Prayer. Love the Diamanda Gallus track on this one for sure. Just a cool comp. Saw this in Toronto at Sonic Boom and just snatched it up. I hadn't even heard of this bar or this era. This is from like the 90s, 1992 to 95-esque era. So yeah, just some really cool, dark and campy at times, and fun, cabaret and punk. Lots of interlude, like actual live recordings of like interactions with the crowd, etc. during the interludes. So Black Lips, Her Life and Her Many Deaths. It's released in tandem with that book anthology. So there it is. One of the newer comps to show in here. And last but not least, for Various Artists, an old school comp, again from the 80s. This is from 1988. Oops, Wrong Stereotype. Alternative Tentacles compilation. Had to get some AT in there. I've got another one, the Virus 100 comp, which is actually really good too. But that one's sort of cover versions of classic Dead Kennedys songs. This is all original material by a whole host of bands. Of course, Jello Biafra's on here with Love American Death Squad Style. Klaus Fluoride, former guitarist of Dead Kennedys, is also on this one. You got Alice Donut, which is a good grunge band, pre-grunge. Beaten Eggs, which is like alternative hip-hop. And No Means No. 2 No Means No songs on this thing, too. So, very cool comp. Something I kind of found just in the wild as well. I didn't really know about this comp too much growing up, but it's definitely solid. Now, I'll go into a quick run of some artists, single artist comps. When I first heard about this contest, I immediately thought about all these killer Punk 45 series out of the UK and Soul Jazz records. Those are also amazing comps that I play often. But let's get into the single artist comps now. And just pulling a heavy load here of records. Why don't we kick it off with, from New York City, New York City's finest, the Beastie Boys. This is one of my favorite comps by them. It's one of my favorite Beastie Boys albums, actually. Some old bullshit. This came out in 94, and it was like just to tie in the old stuff, their hardcore days, but also like their early experimenting with hip-hop as well. So like Cookie Puss is on this thing, along with Egg Raid on Mojo. Their title track, if you will, Beastie Boys, Transit Cop, Jimmy. This is just a sick compilation. Definitely worth tracking down. It's probably been reissued. This is grand. Well, if not, if this isn't actually a reissue, I'm not sure, but yeah, just really cool early Beastie Boys stuff as they're doing that transition from hardcore punk to hip hop, and some early scratching. I think it even includes like maybe their 4th band member, if I recall. Now from the UK, I'm gonna go with this one, Crass, Best Before. This is essential. I mean, this is the quintessential Crass album. I think for years this was the only Crass album I had. It is a beast of a record. I think this originally came out in 84 or 86, but this is the 2023 copy of it. You got some cool punk collage going on. Crass, of course, famous anarcho-punk band of the 70s, 80s. Do They Owe Us a Living is on here. I think like 3 versions of it. Shaved Women, Major, General Despair. Just tons of shit. It's all good. Very cool compilation. Loaded up with Crass stuff. It's on the Crass label. I think they were in charge of this reissue. And Crass Records, you have UK. A great find as well. I think it must be available on CD too, so I'll bag that up later. I have a lot of bagging to do after this video. Alright, moving along though. Also from the UK, had to show this one. Probably my favorite Smiths album. This and Queen is Dead are probably my the competition for the best Smiths album for me. Always had this when I was younger on cassette, Half Full Hollow. It came out in '84 originally, and it's like the Peel session recordings. So really cool BBC sound. In some ways, better than some of the original tracks on the albums, and it's completely loaded up. I mean, there's not a bad track on this album. So one of those records that has every song is good. This album has a lot of damn good songs too. Probably pretty close to everything is the best on this one, and it's also my favorite one by this band. This is Black Flag's first 4 years, Essential Black Flag. This is the one that has the first four singers as well, before Henry Rollins. And I got to see Greg Ginn and his version of Black Flag this year live, and it was kind of fun. But that vocalist is not as good as any of these guys. I'm sure he'd probably say it himself. But Keith Morris is on here. He's like probably my favorite Black Flag singer. Of course, he went on to Circle Jerks. But yeah, this has all the hits from their EPs, various EPs in 7 inches. In fact, they get them listed here too. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 EPs. Yeah, Black Flag came out in '83, but that's a reissue of some sort. Now this one is this is a compilation of only just 2 records, 2 EPs, but it's one of my favorites to pick up actually by Big Black. This is the Hammer Party. It's kind of an early compilation of their stuff, of just like their first 2 EPs, Cables and the other one that's escaping me right now. But the Hammer Party brings it all together. This is on Homestead Records out of New York City, and a great comp, great band, noisy, no wave rock. Essential, Big Black, Steve Albini. So that's another one. This one's a live one. I haven't shown too many live compilations, but I thought I'd throw this in there because this is like one of my favorite GBH records. No Survivors. This is a more recent reissue, 2014, but this originally came out in '89. This is a Cleopatra reissue, so colored vinyl and all that kind of crap. But yeah, I really love this. This is the GBH record I grab the most when I'm going for them, and just love the live versions on this. I think it's like a 1982 concert, but it's not clear if it's been edited or what. But just check out the first track on side 2, Generals. Just the way he introduced that as Jails. That's quite the accent. Keeping it UK right now, and the classic punk. You don't get more classic than the Pistols. And this has always been my favorite Pistols record. Just for the variety alone on this thing, this is a great comp to have. This came out in '79, and this also would be in my original 10, 15 punk records as a kid. I had a copy of this. Yeah, you have Sid Vicious singing, doing his solo stuff on this thing, and them doing like Monkees covers of Steppin' Stone, Frank Sinatra's My Way. But you also have like some of their original stuff, Pretty Vacant, No Fun, Holidays in the Sun, I Want to Be Me. It covers a lot of ground. Came out on Virgin after they signed with them, I guess, after the EMI debacle. Flogging a Dead Horse. Definitely. And then a piece of turd on the back of the record there. So a little bit of Pistols. I got 3 more here to show you guys. Something much more new on my radar. Anyway, this came out in 2011, but it is old school stuff. This is old Belgian synthwave, cold wave stuff from Belgium. Like I said, it's actually formed by 2 brothers going as Parade Ground. And this is all material from like 1982 to '88 on Dark Entries, of course, out of San Fran. Great reissue label. Had to show something Dark Entries in this video. And nice cool packaging too. Comes with this zine, stapled and all. Some of the releases that is compiling. I wasn't really aware of this band back in the day, but probably fell under some of the Belgian new beat EBM style, but really great. Cool vocals. Just check out, I think it's the opening track, I Shut My Eyes, where just a great falsetto kind of almost Brodsky beat style vocal, but over a cold wave sort of post-punk dreary minimalism, and you get halfway there. So, Parade Ground, The Golden Years. Good comp. Good band. Now, a favorite, an old school favorite of mine, and probably for a long time, the only record I have by this band. In some ways, only record you need sometimes, but this is Bad Music for Bad People, the classic Cramps compilation, if ever there was one. It has all the early hits. Garbage Man, Goo Goo Muck's on here, Human Fly, TV Set, Drug Train, Can't Hardly Stand It. Where Would We Be Without Lux, and Poison Ivy. And I managed to score a copy of this back in the day for 17 bucks, so that was a pretty good steal, I think, at the time. 17 Canadian. This is a Canadian press, I think, actually, on IRS. There we go. And my last showing of the day, wrapping it up with Crude SS. Some old school Swedish crust punk. I know, just what you needed. If you don't know Swedish crust punk, you need to go and check this out, because it doesn't come much more raw or crusty than Crude SS. I guess all the songs are sung in English. All the song titles are in English, but I don't know if you'll make out a lot of the vocals. This is all stuff from 82 to 1985. EPs, 7 inches, etc. This got put out in 2015 on Radiation Records out of Italy, doing a great job on reissuing obscure old school punk, etc. So yeah, Crude SS, a comp to finish the task. There it is, Jack. I'm going to send this over to you now, and hopefully it qualifies or not. It was a fun trip anyway through Compilations. Happy holidays to everybody, and I'll see you soon.